Hi, yeah, I want to talk about two types of violences. Um, so I've been like reading up on genocides, mass atrocities, right? And right now I am very concerned with um, environmentalism and also the type of violence that we are like, like humans are, I'm trying to find the word, but what we're doing to the planet is also kind of violence. And I think um, just like Rob Nixon, like I like how he differentiates between slow violence and the spectacular kind of violence. And like from my understanding, the spectacular kind of violence is the one that is the type of violence that is newsworthy. That when it happens, you can actually see the immediate effect of a bullet crushing somebody's skull and the brains. Sorry for these graphic details, but like you can basically see the violence, heads bursting open, buildings collapsing, people being displaced in real time, right? So that's the kind of violence which is spectacular and newsworthy, which inevitably we are always drawn to, and that's what makes us go and sit in front of the TV and just watch, right, and talk about it and like kind of deliberate on why we should stop it and all that stuff, right? And then there's the slow violence, which usually is brushed over and like people don't pay very close attention to it because I guess the danger is not immediate. You don't feel it, you don't see it in the moment, you don't see it unfold. It's kind of like when you plant a seed. It doesn't grow immediately, right? You forget about it for a second, and then later on you come and see, oh, okay, there's some sprouts there. Oh, okay, there's a little shoot coming out of the ground. And then after a while you come back and you're like, holy shit, it's a whole plant. And then you come back again, you're like, oh my god, it's making seeds. And then you come back again, and then like, oh, dispersion has taken place, and more trees of its kind has grown, right? I'm using this very beautiful analogy, which is at least more helpful, a plant. But I think the same is possible for the bad things that we do. That Rob Nixon talks about how it can also, like how slow violence, such as for example, let's say fracking, injecting poisons into the earth, you don't see the immediate effects right in that instant. As people are exploring oil and whatnot, you just think about the oil that's gonna come out, the money that's gonna be made, and then we don't really think about what happens to the earth after that, right? So it is a kind of like very slow acting poison. Yeah, again, I can compare spectacular violence to slow violence as like I shoot you or I poison you a little bit every day for 7 years. The outcome is usually just the same. Like death is what happens. Although of course the one kind of death takes a while to come, while the other is more immediate. And yeah, so I'm thinking about spectacular violence and slow violence as the inverse of one another. I guess if we think about inverse in mathematical terms or geometry terms, I'm not a mathematician, but we did this in 12th grade, but it's like putting a mirror like in the middle of something, right? It's like you see an inverted image. Here's how I'm seeing it, right? The spectacular violence, the death happens now. All the catastrophe happens right this instant. And then the ripple effects of that catastrophic incident is the trauma, it is the displacement, it is the social structure that comes from it, which kind of creates it creates room for more of that same kind of violence to happen, because there will be like retaliation feelings, there would be a sense of injustice, a sense of wanting justice for what was done to a person. And this kind of like the ripples last for generations, right? If my mother was involved in a war, she was in the war and bad things happened during the war, then, and my mother's trauma and sadness or whatever from that obviously is transferred to me. We know about epigenetics, but then also just me observing my mother's affective dispositions, or let's say me observing my mother's sadness, okay, in plain English, also kind of has an effect on me. And then it might also have an effect on my children and my children's children and my children's children's children, for as long as it takes for us to like have a sense of justice for the violence that happened, even if it's 100 years ago. And then, so that's how you can see that, like, from the catastrophic there's like a slow ripple down, and then now for slow violence the inverse is, it is a slow build up to a catastrophic event. So it's like, yes, your water is being poisoned a little bit every day, all the trees are being chopped off a little bit every day. You don't really see it immediately that it's affecting you, and that's what we've been observing with the ozone layer, or like just the whole climate change thing with the whole global warming and cyclones and natural disasters in areas that never used to see natural disasters before, or like rain in places where it's usually drought. It's supposed to not be raining, maybe, you know. And then of course all this kind of builds up and builds up and builds up and builds up to a point where we also start seeing the catastrophic effects of something that seems harmless in the moment. Yeah, so I guess that's how I just wanted to talk about like this type of violence. So Nixon talks about like representation as the problem, right? Like, because how do you, it's easy to write about like an active violence taking place, right? Damn, somebody shot a woman with a baby on her back and the baby died, and then she just kept going, and then at some point she took the baby off her back and the baby was dead. It's spectacular, it's a page turner, right? You can like keep reading about it and feel and feel and feel, you know. But with things like the environment, how do we write in a way that also causes people to turn pages, to see it as something immediate, as something dangerous and catastrophic? Yeah, I have to keep reading that book, because that's just from the introduction, and I didn't even read all of the introduction, but I like how it just got me thinking about that stuff, you know. Yeah, if y'all wanna hear more, let me know. I'm gonna get back to it. Take care. Peace out.